how does motivation for escalation like fall into this? So uh obviously we know there cyber warfare can escalate into real warfare, right? They're going into this, we've seen a lot of nation state actors or backed hackers um conducting operations within the United States. Oftentimes they are not they're not attacking the actual infrastructure or critical infrastructure. That has happened. What we've seen though is we've seen a lot of campaigns of disinformation or sowing discord, um, seeking chaos. It seems like how does that play in, and is that a blind spot?
I think so. I mean, especially with regard to disinformation. Russia has been very provocative in that way. Clearly attempting to influence the Brexit vote. Lots of evidence of their attempts to influence the 2016 and 2020 elections here in the U.S. In terms of its uh, I think it continues in part because it hasn't resulted in escalation or response. The Russians are kind of furtive with their disinformation and other cyber attacks. That they kind of prod and poke and then withdraw. Because I think that they read our laws as much as we read them, and they know that we consider certain types of cyber attacks an act of war, and they kind of flirt right with that edge of it, right? But they also know that we actually do follow our own laws, and that we're going to sit there and look at the law and go, hey, was this a true violation or not? And maybe it's a gray area, and so far. Russia hasn't received any significant response as a result of their cyber attacks, at least ones that are in the public domain, and
So is that
ones
because we
that
have
turns out
effective
went
like
up.
deterrence though? Is that because we have like the fact that escalation into kinetic warfare is such a
Yeah.
deterrent that that's why they really run in this gray zone with regards
I
to
mean, I can't speak. I can't speak for the Pentagon, right? Obviously, it's been quite a while since I was in uniform. I can just my own observations and speculation. I think that um, our our lack of response or apparent response, lack of response is really related to the fact that every time Russia does pretty quickly withdraw their efforts, and I think Russia knows that in an actual kinetic exchange that they would be crushed. I was not surprised at their performance with the initial invasion of Ukraine and what has happened since. Russia relies on their ability to intimidate and bluff. They make a convincing image that they are this big bad superpower, and they do have nuclear weapons. But beyond that, their forces, especially their conventional forces, are not capable at the same level as NATO countries, most of the NATO countries, and definitely nothing compared to what the United States brings to the table. And Russia knows that, and so that's why they'll quickly withdraw when anything even smells of a kinetic exchange. That would justify U.S. involvement? They don't want that, but they also know how to manipulate public opinion inside the United States and how to intimidate European sentiment and leaders and the public sentiment there. So their national pastime is chess. They're good at it. They're good at strategy, and they're good at bluffing. And so I think that's part of it. However, if they think they've got overmatch, they will conduct the cyber warfare and escalate. They did it in Estonia in 2007, and they did it in Georgia in 2008. Estonia, they just did the cyber piece, but then Estonia is a NATO country, right? And they didn't want to, they didn't follow with an incursion. But then the year after that, Georgia, they tested the waters there, recognized they weren't going to get any kind of unified response, and then they conducted the incursion. And from that, they still control areas of the Republic of Georgia, the semi-autonomous regions. and they were successful.